Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of appreciation of women's history in music. We're going to be looking at a band today called Avatarium. It says, imagine Dio-era Rainbow mixed with Candlemass and a great female singer to boot. We're going to check out a song called Moonhorse from Avatarium. Now, I barely have any knowledge of Candlemass. I think y'all have made me listen to one track from them. I didn't even know a band called Rainbow existed, much less that Dio was a part of it at one time. Honestly, I read that and I thought we were talking about Rainbow in the Dark. But I did a little bit of research. I was like, what's Rainbow? So I went and looked that up. So yeah, I don't have a lot of context for what we're getting into here, but hopefully some of you do and you're excited about this. Let's dive in, see what Avatarium is bringing to the table today. So big guitar sounds, a heavy, dreadful weight. So that is an organ in the background, I think, for those two notes, and then we have the harmonized guitar that comes in after that.
Oh mother, are there horses on the moon? I saw them last night through the looking glass tube. One horse was red, the other was blue, running and rolling where the moonflower bloom. Oh mother, are there tigers in the sea? Tumbling and swimming like dolphins they breathe, happy and graceful at the bottom of the sea, playing like children and they look just like me.
I like the division between the acoustic guitar side and this heavy doomier side. I just don't hear a lot of similarity there though. Obviously the sounds of the instruments are going to be different, but I think there's even a harmonic shift.
Oh mother, are there fish in the trees, casting their fire, eating the leaves? Through the window I saw them flying so free, but I am in here, how can this be? Oh mother, is there life here beyond, a place in the clouds after I'm gone, where I can paint, play and belong, sing with my friends and they're singing along. horses on the moon. I saw them last night through the looking glass tube. One horse was red, the other was blue, running and rolling where the moonflower blew. Oh mother, are there tigers in the sea, tumbling and swimming like dolphins they breathe, happy and graceful at the bottom of the sea, playing like children and they look just like me.
I wonder how strongly the concept of cyclicality plays into this song. The violin over here is a nice addition. Alright, yeah, I have a pretty strong grasp on this song. This is one of those tracks that you really have to like what they're doing, because they really don't deviate away from it too much. They have really heavy, doomy metal stuff going on as far as guitar riffs. We hear 3 pretty solid doom riffs on this. Lots of weight, but it's not super dragging you down either. It's got momentum. It's got a bit of groove and syncopation to it. Boom, chicka boom, boom, chicka boom. It is heavy as far as the sonic element goes, but it isn't just like Funeral Doom, where it's just these really slow, plodding, downbeat attacks. It sort of feels a little stonerish to me at times, even with its more syncopated ideas. Being played within this massive, gnarly guitar tone. I think the riffs themselves are solid. The harmonic information underneath, there's not a lot to it, though. Many of these riffs are 2-chord ideas, usually sitting on 1 chord for a majority of it, and then having a punctuating chord that gives a little bit more tension for a brief moment to pull us back down to our home, our root sound. And like that makeup right there of little harmonic information, the smallest amount you can use to get by, having rest and tension and just having two ideas there, and then having some heavy gnarly riff that all the guitars and bass are all in on. That's sort of the MO for most of the heavy sections on this song. They're contrasted with these light, folky acoustic guitar ideas. This is usually just strumming the chord with some sort of rhythmic idea going on. Not a lot to dig into there either. These two ideas sort of sit on oppositions of each other. So, like I said, you have to really enjoy the riffs themselves because melodically, harmonically, even rhythmically, there's not a lot of diversity going on in here. The riffs may change, but the feelings behind the riffs don't. I think this is one of those cases where just me not being much of a metalhead, not really enjoying riffs too much, I'm going to have a very different experience with this track than somebody who does enjoy riffs, who does enjoy metal. Because I listened to this, and while there are, I think, 3 or 4 solid doom riffs on this, each section in here feels pretty much identical to me. The riffs themselves aren't adding enough to the song or to the section to differentiate it too much from any of the other ones. And so I end up just hearing this song as heavy section, light section, heavy section, light section, and not really too much differentiating between any of the different heavy or different light sections on the song. It ends up getting very repetitive for me. But I assume if you enjoy riffs, if you enjoy the nuance of riffage, if you enjoy these heavy atmospheres, you probably enjoyed this song quite a bit more than I did. But see, here's the other thing that really bothers me on this track is that it feels like I'm switching between Headbangers Ball and VH1 during, peak 90s when they actually played music videos. And I'm getting 2 totally different tracks here. And then my brain's trying to piece it all together. All of the heavy sections fit together very well. All of the light, folky sections fit together very well. There is very little, if any, crossover, I think, between them. Obviously, sonically, they're very different. I like high sonic contrast, so this isn't really that big of a problem for me. Transitioning from meaty, heavy, fuzzy guitars to acoustic guitars sounds great. I've praised it in many songs. So it's not that big of an issue here. But when we look at the harmonic information here, we'll actually find that the chords of the metal section have nothing to do with the chords of the lighter section. It feels like a totally different song altogether. And the fact that there's usually some sort of break between the heavier and lighter sections almost feels like we're just completely changing gears to something totally different. I'm just not a big fan of that. I like the contrast. There's just no fluidity to it. There's nothing that says these are the same song. Now, maybe that's intentional. Maybe this is supposed to be a song about stark duality, in which case I think they've accomplished that pretty well musically. But even looking at the vocal melody, looking at the pitches that the vocalist uses to build their melody in the heavier sections versus the lighter ones, there's almost no carryover there either. It's really 2 completely different songs that get smashed together. Sometimes we pick up pieces from one, sometimes we pick up pieces from the other, and they never cross over in any capacity. I'm not even talking about playing acoustic instruments with the heavier ones, although that would have done a little bit in trying to tie these 2 ideas together. But there's just no way I think we could have brought these 2 together harmonically, based on chords, based on note choices. They're too different. It creates something that to me constantly feels very jarring in a way that it isn't just, oh, this is heavy, this is light. It's not just that. It's the note choices, it's the chord progression, it's the harmonies, it's the atmospheres. They're just 2 totally different ideas. It's like reading a paragraph from one chapter and then reading a paragraph from the next and then going back to the previous chapter and reading the next paragraph. And like you can kind of make sense of it if you want, but you're reading it out of sorts. You should finish one chapter before getting to the next. And that's sort of what this feels like. We're kind of jumping around between ideas that just aren't supposed to be understood in any capacity. And I found that to be rather jarring. And so when we reached the back half of the track, I guess about 4 minutes in, when we finally got vocals on one of the heavier sections, I don't think we returned back to any of the acoustic guitar work after this. And the song finally felt cohesive in some way. We also have the guitar solos in here. And I mentioned during the second guitar solo, I think it was, I said I wonder if cyclicality is a massive part of this track. I bring this up mostly because the solos themselves we'll get to in a second, but like I mentioned, even the chord progression, we have rest and then tension and then rest and then tension. It's not really so much a progression as much as the bare minimum to not feel repetitive. We could have just done 4-bar phrase of the same chord 4 times, but instead we do that 3 times and then one piece of contrast. That little bit of tension allowing us to return back. This doesn't imply movement. This doesn't imply direction. It's just a touch of contrast within a rather stationary sound. And when I look to the guitar solos too, I recognize that this idea of stationary writing is within them as well. When I listen to the guitars, I'm not taken on a journey. We continue to explore a single space over and over and over. There is no rising and falling action to the harmonic information in the solos. They just sort of stay right here all the time. They play a nice little lick, a cool riff, a nice melodic idea, but it's not pushing towards anywhere. It just stands still where it is. There really isn't an end to any of the ideas either. Every ending is a return back to the beginning. Every time a phrase is over, it also implies a direction to return back to where we were, to go through that loop once again. That's not a bad thing. That's simply an observation, and you can certainly use this type of writing to push a narrative of being stuck someplace. And I'd say that since the chord progression supports this and the narrative, the melodic writing supports this, to me, it's a really big pattern. It's a strong aspect of what this song is compositionally. It's a song about standing still. Everything in here supports it, except for, of course, those folk acoustic guitar bits that drastically rip us into a different place. It also doesn't have too much in the way of momentum or direction. It is also quite happy with just being what it is and staying where it is. But it's a different here than the metallic sections. I don't really know how to interpret that within my framework of the rest of the track, but I do think it's interesting that no matter where we are, we're always complacent with staying there. Unless we're getting jerked around to somewhere else entirely. There is no sort of foreshadowing, no directionality to this song, there's no journey to it. It's all about right here, right now. And I find that interesting for a song whose lyrics, which we'll dive into in a second, but what little I picked up was, hey, there's horses on the moon, there's tigers in the sea. It feels to be a song about imagination of another place, which can certainly tie into ideas of being stuck and bound to one place, to want to go somewhere else. We'll get into some of that later. I'm kind of hoping the lyrics lean into it, though. I'm not too keen on the composition. I think it has artistic merit if they want to go in that direction, but I do want to give a bit of praise in the production department of this. Not necessarily just the engineering side of things, but also the performance side of things. The vocalist sounds fantastic, whether they're going for a bit of a lighter, more approachable sound in the folkier elements, or something a bit more large and imposing, a bit more powerful in the metal sections. They sound fantastic. The vibrato is gorgeous. Every pitch is perfectly placed. Lovely work all around. The sound of the band, the guitars and the bass, all coming together into this monolithic instrument sounds great. As far as like big, imposing, massive, fuzzy, doomy instrumentation goes, this band absolutely nails that wall of sound very well. And everybody's perfectly in time with everyone, too. It allows the sound to feel as monolithic as it does because everyone comes in right at the same time and they seem to stop playing, whether that's just, it could be an engineering side of ensuring that everything tapers off at the same rate. Could be a performance side if there's any sort of muting going on. Regardless, everything feels singular. And that's such an important part into crafting this sound. The drums feel massive without feeling big. There's not a lot of reverb on the drums, but they can still keep up with everything else, with all the strings going on too. I can appreciate all of the work that went into crafting these tones, into playing this the way that they did, and the engineer having to, tidy the last 10% up to make sure that it feels as massive and as singular and as wall of soundy as it does. Definitely, they deserve quite a bit of credit for the sound of this song. But then there's also the extra instruments. There's an organ. We get 2 chords of it in parts of the song. I'm not too sure what that's supposed to be. It's an interesting choice. Usually it's on bar 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, another guitar comes in and harmonizes on top of the moving idea that the other instruments are playing. In a bit less of a unified wall of sound, this instrument sort of stands out quite a bit in the mix. But I do think it's interesting then that we do have those 2 chords of the organ. Maybe they continue to persist and the new guitar that plays on top of it sort of drowns it out a little bit. But I never really got the point of the organ. Maybe it doesn't need a point. Maybe there's just a little bit of space left over and they're like, let's throw an organ in there. The same I actually want to throw towards the violin that we hear in a couple of places, particularly there at the end. It does add a new part to the song, which I thought was interesting, but it doesn't transform the song in any way. In fact, once the violin actually starts doing something of more interest is during the fade out. So we actually don't get to hear how that idea evolves in any way, but interestingly, or not interestingly, depending on your perspective on this, it is also just kind of playing in a loop. Every directionality to the idea is designed to loop back in on itself, every ending a beginning. It also doesn't really go anywhere. Falls in line with a lot of the patterns that I've seen in the more melodic leaning ideas on this track. So I'm going to read some lyrics here then, kind of see how any of this might tie up any of the ideas I've had on this song. But I am curious, even without getting into them, what your thoughts are on this track. Did it capture your mind? Did you enjoy sitting within the sound of theirs? Or did you find, like me, that this just wasn't your cup of tea, that you were not the target audience of this? I'm kind of curious because, we've recently done Doom Week, we've recently done Stoner Week, and even songs that tend to be a bit more single-minded in what they're trying to execute. I find that they can be a bit more diverse and interesting for me personally. This just doesn't really capture that. And that's not to say that the band isn't as good as some of the bands we've checked out. Simply that what they're going for musically here, I'm just not the audience for. But I'm curious where other people sit on that too. Alright, let me check out some lyrics then. I'm a bit intrigued by this. particularly because I feel like this is one of those cases where I'm just missing some much needed context on it, but also because I feel like there's something just a bit more sinister or dark, possibly, bubbling beneath the surface here. We have a series of stanzas that sort of read like a child's imagination. "Oh, mother, are there horses on the moon? I saw them last night through the looking glass tube. One horse was red, the other was blue, running and rolling where the moonflowers bloom. Oh, mother, are there tigers in the sea, tumbling and swimming like dolphins they breathe, happy and graceful at the bottom of the sea, playing like children, and they look just like me? Oh, mother, are there fish in the trees, casting their fires and eating their leaves? Through the window I saw them flying so free, but I am in here. How can this be?" From here, though, we kind of move away from this childlike imagination into something a bit heavier. And we've even started to see a little bit of this crack through here, where the vocalist says, "But how can this be if I'm in here? How do I see all of this stuff?" Says, "Oh, mother, is there life here beyond, a place in the clouds after I'm gone, where I can paint, play, and belong, sing with my friends, and they're singing along?" Says, "I can see the end of the morning, my dying fear, it's the eternal dawning. Oh, take me there. There's a crack in the window and an open door, a place in the hollow across the moor." I wonder who this child is, what kind of life they're living, if they wonder about life after death and can feel their end drawing near, hoping that there is a place on the other side of this fear where they can belong, where they can sing with friends and paint. After these three stanzas that kind of take a bit of a darker twist, we return back to the older stuff, the horses on the moon and the tigers in the sea. The final stanza, though, says, "I feel the teardrops falling. I hear the moonhorse calling. I see the black moon rivers to the night I'm given." To me, this implies that whatever fear this child had that slowly seeped through this childlike innocence is bubbling up again, maybe even becoming quite present, no longer a fear, but a reality. Maybe that's what the division in the music is supposed to represent then. Most of the horses on the moon and tigers in the sea and fish in the trees is during the lighter, folkier side of things. It's kind of lighthearted. The vocal style is a bit more sing-songy, a little bit more ethereal and innocent. But whenever the darkness comes in, that's when the vocalist sings on top of the heavy weight of the guitars. It could even be seen that the heavy guitars being placed between these more childlike wonder segments of folk music is supposed to be maybe this imposing doom that she can see on the periphery and is dreading it coming. Now, what any of this means in a bit more of an actual sense, I don't know. The best read I have of this is someone who can feel a sense of dread for the future, but is still trying to be a child. And the music kind of reflects that. But there's also this element of being stuck here. How can I see all of these things around the world if I'm just here? I see the world through my window. Implies a state of not being able to leave, not being able to go somewhere. That anything that they want to explore, everything that interests them, is on the other side of glass. I think the music kind of leaning into this singularity does a great job of capturing that vibe of feeling stuck in place. It's still not music that I quite enjoyed. Like I said, the riffs themselves seem solid, but it's very samey from start to finish, which just usually isn't my cup of tea. And while I do think that this division between the folkier side and the metal side has artistic quality, I'm just not entirely convinced that the execution is solid. I would love a little bit more musical thread through between them, something that kind of ties them together a little bit more, even if it's just a harmonic idea. So I do appreciate it a little bit more, seeing how they attempted to weave the themes of their lyrics into the musical side of things. I'm just not entirely sold on the execution of those intentions. But these are just my thoughts on Avatarium's Moonhorse. What are yours? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own thoughts, opinions, or perspective on this track. Please put all of that down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.